The idea of shipping a World War II Jeep to Normandy for the 75th anniversary of D-Day started off as a casual conversation over breakfast. When the planning was complete, we ended up with 6 Jeeps, 5 countries, and 16 people of all ages, with a few others joining us on portions of the trip. We prepared our Jeeps mechanically and packed them with gear, tools, and spare parts. Then it was time to deliver them to the shipper for their voyage to France. Our first stop was Normandy, where we spent 9 days. During our time in Normandy, we drove our Jeeps around the French countryside, down hedgerows, through small stone villages, and on D-Day beaches. We visited museums, cemeteries, and historical sites. There were thousands of World War II military vehicles of every shape and size in Normandy for the anniversary. There were a few mechanical issues in Normandy, including a broken axle and a broken transmission gear, which required rebuilding the transmission in a 500-year-old stone barn in Normandy. After loading all our gear and 17 people into the 6 Jeeps, we headed off on our first leg towards Belgium. We crossed the River Seine and visited the ruins of a Roman amphitheater in Lillebonne, France, along the way. We stuck to small back roads the entire way and arrived at our first stop in Theville-à-Malo, France, near the coast north of Le Havre. On the second day towards Belgium, we stopped at a small French town where locals came out to greet us. They had a picture of British Matilda tanks parked in the same spot our Jeeps were parked in the square. They explained that the Germans attacked the British in town and destroyed the church and several buildings. It was 1940 and the Germans were driving the British to the sea at Dunkirk. This day would take us through the Valley Somme, France, and many World War I sites. We visited the Australian War Memorial and several cemeteries, including the grave site of one of our group's great uncles who served in the Australian Army during World War I. In the valley, we stopped at the site tanks were first used in battle in 1916 and the crash site of the Red Baron.
That's where the Red Baron crashed, for real. And he was shot by an Australian with a 303 Vickers machine gun, shot him down, landed right there.
Wow.
After spending our last night in France, we headed to our next stop, Bastogne, Belgium. We were greeted to a warm welcome by our friend and local guide who lives near Bastogne. We spent 3 nights in a beautiful chateau on an estate near Bastogne.
Heading into the town of Bastogne. This is where our guys would be in December of '44.
First day in Bastogne, we visited the 101st Airborne Museum and the Bastogne Barracks, which was the headquarters for the 101st during the Battle of the Bulge. It was from these barracks Acting Commander General Anthony McAuliffe gave the famous reply, "Nuts," when the Germans demanded his surrender of Bastogne. On our second day in Bastogne, we met with an official guide who took us on a tour of Jack Woods, where Easy Company was entrenched on the front lines during the Battle of the Bulge. The foxholes dug by Easy Company are still present. We also visited the village of Foy, where Easy Company overtook the Germans who held the village. The scars of the battle can still be seen on the buildings. After our third night in the Bastogne area, we headed toward Germany with a stop in Clairvaux, Luxembourg, the area where the father of one of our group members was captured by the Germans while serving in the 28th Infantry Division. On our way into Germany, we also visited the Battle of the Bulge Relic Museum and the site of the Malmedy Massacre, where 84 American prisoners of war were massacred by their German captors. Our first stop in Germany was the historic town of Monschau on the Rohr River. Its preserved half-timbered houses and narrow cobblestone streets have remained nearly unchanged for 300 years. We spent 2 nights in Monschau, using it as our home base to explore the Hurtgen Forest battle areas. Local friends from the military vehicle and historical reenacting community met us in their Jeep and took us on a tour of the Hurtgen Forest battle areas. One of the Jeeps had mechanical issues the first day in the Hurtgen Forest area, but we were able to resolve the issue and continue on. After leaving Monschau, Germany, we stopped at the German tank traps known as Dragon's Teeth as we crossed the Siegfried Line on our way into Holland. We visited the Overloon War Museum in Holland and spent the night in Uden. Our last day in Holland started off with mechanical issues with one of the Jeeps, the third transmission out of the 6 Jeeps to give us trouble in our 3-week trip. With no parts to repair the transmission and 1 day left to reach our final destination, we called upon the international military vehicle community for help and were able to arrange a fellow collector to come with a trailer and pick up the Jeep. We visited the landing zone of the 82nd Airborne Division and crossed the bridge, which was their objective to secure near Nijmegen during Operation Market Garden. We continued on with 5 Jeeps to meet a German collector friend who arranged for a barbecue for our arrival. The next day, 5 Jeeps were driven to Bremerhaven, Germany to be shipped home, and 1 Jeep was picked up in Bremen, Germany to be kept in Europe for another adventure someday. After dropping off the Jeeps, our group of 16 went our separate ways, some visiting Paris on the way home, others continuing on with other travel plans in Europe. We had put approximately 2,000 miles on the Jeep during our adventure. We met with old friends in Europe and made some new friends along the way. We shared meals, housing, mechanical issues, and historical sites. But above all, we shared memories that will be with us forever.